Hi, this is Shawn O'Grady for 8-Count Boxing Hour, and you're a knockout.
Watch out for that big right hand from Irish Shawn Maclean. Excuse me, Irish Shawn O'Grady. And right now, let's meet another champ. This is world-class referee Neffe Quintana from right here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Neffe really knows his stuff, and let's meet him right now. Right now on the 8-Count Boxing Hour, we've got a referee here in Albuquerque. He's one of the, as you can see, a world-class referee. This is Neffe Quintana, and we're going to talk to Neffe. First of all, Neffe, do you know what fights you're going to be working tonight?
I sure don't. They won't let me know till about 10 minutes before bell time. That's usually the case.
Okay, now Neffe has worked, how many world title fights have you worked?
I have worked about 20 world title fights and about 26 title fights altogether, but many main events in the last 39 years.
Okay, now what would you say are some of the biggest named boxers that you've worked with as a referee?
As a referee, I guess Butler would be one of them, and then Tony, what's this guy? Tony, the big guy from L.A. Evander Holyfield, I worked as a judge. I worked Brilland and Starling. I have worked Meldrick Taylor, but not as a referee, as a judge, that people know around here. And several others. Jimmy Thunder, I've had about 3 of his bouts. Of course, Maclean, a local boy. And our own very well-known Danny Romero, I worked a couple of his fights. Okay. Right here in
okay, well, that's kind of a Hall of Fame right there in itself. Neffe, what fighters have given you, do you recall any crazy moments? Any guys that wouldn't cooperate in the ring or anything like that? Has that ever happened to you?
Yes, it has. I won't mention the tough man because anything can happen there, and it has happened. But Baltasar was one of the guys that gave me a little trouble. He hit this kid while he was down, but he had already won the fight. He didn't have to do it, but it's one of those things that happens real quick, and I probably should have done something. And anyway, the fight was over right at that point. And I don't recall the specifics, but it was a Baltasar fight. Another one in Denver was Butler, where he would hit on the clinch. He was supposed to step back, but he would, as he was breaking, he'd hit. Finally penalized him, but they're kind of hard to deal with. Jimmy Thunder and the heavyweight from Washington was another hard one, where they both held a lot. I had to penalize one of them because he wouldn't turn loose, and this is kind of hard.
How do you get the big guys to break loose, Neffe? Those guys are giants, man.
Well, you gotta sometimes poke them with the elbow a little bit, or get in there and really let them know that you mean business. You gotta demand from them. You gotta command it. You gotta yell it out. They've gotta hear you.
Right.
You gotta let them know you're in charge. If they don't think you're in charge, then you've lost them. From the beginning, you gotta tell them. You gotta tell them who's the boss and go from there.
Okay, Neffe. I mean, I know you don't want to say any negatives about other referees or anything, but who are some of the best referees, in your opinion, other than yourself and other than the local guys, but on the big scene? Who would you say are maybe the top 3 in your opinion?
I'll tell you, in my opinion, the best referees are the guys that have the best fighters at that particular night. You're going to mention names like Steele, Hazard, and Mills Lane, and all. They're good referees, Carlos Padilla, but the fighters kind of... if you have 2 good fighters that go by the rules, you can look tremendous.
Right, right.
On a tough fight, on a hard fight, any referee can be made to look bad sometimes. So it's hard to really say, but there are some good ones. There's one in South Africa, Stanley Christodoulou. Right. Now, he's a good referee, and quick and everything, and big, and for his size, he moves real well, and I respect a lot of the big-name referees, Mercante, all of them. Okay. But they can look bad in some nights, just like anybody else. It's part of the game.
Just like with boxers, the opponent sometimes makes the match a style. Same thing with referees with the fighters, right?
Exactly.
Okay, now you're wearing the patch of the WBA. Is that the only organization that you can referee for as in a title fight?
No, I can call NABF, which is not a world title organization. It's a regional organization. It's Canada, Mexico, and the United States. WBA is all over the world. I have worked about 20 fights in Japan, Korea, and Thailand, and a couple in South America, and those are world title fights too, by the way. They're world-class people. You take a Korean, they're awfully tough, man.
Oh, I've seen some of those fights. They're like dog fights.
And this guy, Galaxy from Thailand, he's very well known. He's a hero out there, just like Roberto Duran was in South America. And when there's a fight in Asia, it's like a Super Bowl. I mean, people consider it a big thing.
Like a Tyson fight.
Yeah. I've had people where they were standing with umbrellas in Thailand outdoors in the ring, 10,000 people watching a fight.
Wow.
And making noise on every blow that took place.
That's amazing. Well, we're not quite to that point yet, but we do have some big names now coming up. Let's give me a comment on each guy individually. Let's start with Danny Romero.
Well, let's start with Danny. Yeah, Danny's a real well-liked kid. I like him. He's been to one of my meetings in Toastmasters. He's a good speaker, good personality. As a fighter, he's an inside fighter. He can hit real hard. I mean, he's got punishing blows, short, punchy blows, but he carries that body behind it, and he can tear anybody apart.
Right.
He's world class.
Right.
And I've worked a lot of fighters his weight, and Danny's better. Now, Johnny Top is another likable guy. I've had him since he was a student at Washington Junior High. I used to teach over there, and I've known Johnny a long time, too. A great boxer, wonderful kid. What I mean is he's got that personality where people really like. I'll tell you, those two are two great favorites of Albuquerque, and I hope they stay favorites for a long, long time, and I know they will.
Okay, well, since you'd like them both, I'm not going to ask you who would win if the two were to meet. But well, let's talk about the guy fighting tonight, Danny Pettis. Tell us about him.
Danny Pettis is a tough, super middleweight. I'll tell you, Danny he's had some hard luck in getting promoted properly or matched properly, but that guy will fight anybody, anytime. And to me, he's terrific, and people have not given him the credit that is due him. And actually, the last fight he fought here, he was real classy. He showed everything in the book. Hooks, lefts, he moved real well, and I think he's going to be a real asset to boxing. Once he gets up there in the limelight a little more exposure, and I want him to make some money.
Okay, we got time for one more question for Neffie. One more name. He's fighting tonight also. From Rio Rancho, the big cruiserweight, Shawn Maclean.
Shawn Maclean, another a cruiserweight. I'll tell you, a great fighter, a great puncher, a pleasing type of fighter. He hasn't met the right opponent in Albuquerque, but I'll tell you, he's ready for a title fight, and I hope they give it to him soon. He's got one heck of a ride. He's got two good hands, I'll tell you.
Did he really scare off Tommy Hearns?
I think so. I don't know what they...
I mean, Hearns people were saying it was the weight, but that sounds kind of fishy.
I think so, too. I think that Hearns backed out at the last minute because he heard our boys. Pretty good hitter.
Okay, well, that's Neffe Quintana, world-class referee. Thanks for your time, Neffie. We enjoy it. We'll see him in the ring tonight. All right, thanks, Neffie.